Every May, I look forward to the return of the migratory birds to this area. One of the more striking is the Baltimore Oriole. And when I began learning bird songs several years ago, the Oriole presented a bit of a challenge to me because it was unlike the other birds in that its song was not consistent. So if you look at a robin to robin to robin, they pretty much all sound very much the same. So it makes it easy to identify a robin's song. But when it came to the Baltimore Oriole, something I noticed is that every year the orioles that came back sounded different. They each had their own series or pattern of notes that made their song very different from the other orioles. And it made it a little bit difficult for me to identify the song until I learned the secret, which was you really need to know the voice or the timbre of the oriole in order to be able to identify the song accurately and consistently. So I did a bit more research, and I learned that orioles learn their songs when they are young, and they learn from other orioles in the area. It could be their parents, or it could be other orioles that just happen to be in the vicinity. So you could say that orioles learn their song through experience. So I was considering this the other day, and I had an interesting thought about the oriole and personality typing. So you could say, or you could look at the oriole as a personality type, and it doesn't matter which type it is. You could pick any one. But you could look at the oriole as a personality type. And you could study pictures of the oriole. You could read books about characteristics of the oriole, just like you can with personality types. You can read about functions. You can read about characteristics of a particular type. But birds are not like human beings, are they? Because in the oriole's case, they learn their song from experience. That's true of us, but we are more complicated creatures. We also learn from experience. That plays a large part in the formula of who we are. But there are also other things to consider, genetics being one of them, among others. So as human beings, there's so much that goes into what make us who we are. It's not just a type on a page. So we can look at personality types on paper, and we can come to certain conclusions. We can make observations, we can create stereotypes, we can be clinical as to how we come to our conclusions. But when it's time to move past what's on paper to actual human beings, this is where we must proceed with caution. It becomes dangerous when we see an actual person as a type, as a stereotype, as a certain grouping of characteristics, because human beings are much more complicated than that. We have experiences, we have genetics, we have all these things factoring into what makes us who we are. We can stereotype for fun, we can make all these observations, but we must ultimately realize that human beings are so much more than the type that we study on paper. And at the risk of sounding cliche, I'm going to say it anyway. But just like the oriole, every person, every human being has their own song to sing. We all have our own songs to sing. We've learned our songs through our experience, through our genetics. We have our own song to sing. Each human being has the potential to bring value to our world. And we can't forget that. We have to remember we are much more than just type.